Yay, you came back for more. Okay, so again, this is section 6.6, properties of exponents. Super long section. I like to do 3 days of it. This is part 2 of the 3 days, which is the second set of the rules, right? So we did the first 3 in part 1. So today we're going to do the next 3. And I actually have a little surprise, even though it is 3 rules, we've actually already learned one of them. So it's only 2 new things, okay? So not too bad. The first one, this is new, is the power rule. Okay, so the power rule is a to the m and then raised to the nth power. So that is going to become a to the m times n. So that means you're going to multiply them. For example, if I have x squared, and if I want to raise all of that to the 3rd power, what does my rule say I should do? The rule says I should multiply them. So x to the 2 times 3 would become x to the 6th. Now the y. This x squared 3 times, I could also think of that as x squared times x squared times x squared, right? And one of the rules that we learned yesterday in part 1 is that when we're multiplying our exponents, we can just go ahead and add them, right? So this would be x to the 2 plus 2 plus 2, which would become x to the 6th, to show you that we would get the same answer. Okay, so practice the rule with, I'm just going to give you 2 of these, okay? So go ahead and hit pause and try these 2. That second one's got a lot going on, okay? So just take your time, hit pause, press play when you're ready. So for the first one, what is my base? It's m, right? So this one is just m, and then just 2 times 5 is 10. So you can either just write 10, or you can write 2 times 5, and then tell me m to the 10th. Either one. Next, okay, there's so much going on here. And there's a lot of different ways to show your work. So as long as in the end, you got the answer of just 1, you're totally fine. Okay, so the final answer is 1. Now here's how I got there. Is I first took a look at that 2 to the 0, and that was the only thing that I changed to start, okay? Because I know that 2 to the 0 is 1. So I just brought down that negative sign, put my parentheses, brought down that next negative sign because the 0 only applies to that 2 to give me that 1. Okay, so now I have a negative 1 cubed. Again, a lot going on, right? Let's just drop that first negative down. Now, negative 1 cubed is negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1. Well, let's just keep dropping that negative down. Now in our parentheses, this gets a little bit confusing, but I have negative 1 times negative 1 is 1, right? Times that another negative 1, I'm going to get negative 1. Now if I have a negative, and again, some people like to slip in a little 1. It doesn't really matter. If it helps you see it, that's totally fine. Negative 1, or negative 1 times negative 1, same thing. I get a positive 1. Cool. All right, number 5. This is the one that we already learned in 6.5, so I won't walk you through the y. If you want to see it again, though, you could always go back and play that video. So again, it just says the product, meaning that the a times b raised to a power, in this case the n, you would just apply that n to both of those factors. So I have 2 of them for you to try. So go ahead and try those. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so for the first one, remember that 5 is just going to get applied to both of these guys here. So we have m squared to the 5th power, so we're going to multiply those. We're going to have m to the 10th, and then what do you get for n? N to the 3 times 5 will give me 15. That one's totally done. All right, the next one, a little bit more work going on here. let me get that 2 in there first. So I'm going to have a to the 7 times 2 is 14, b squared, a cubed, b to the 4th, because that second set of parentheses isn't doing anything for us. Now, if you want to, if it helps you, you can rewrite them so that all the a's are next to each other and the b's are next to each other, but it's not required. And at this point, what are we going to do? Now that it says multiply them all out, we're just going to add our exponents, right? So it's going to be a to the 17th, because we had a to the 14th and a cubed. So 14 plus 3 is 17. And then b to the 2 plus 4 gives me 6. Okay, one more for today. Raising a quotient to a power. So again, quotient means divide, and another way to think of division is to think of it as a fraction. And raising a quotient to a power, it says that if whatever you have for that fraction, you just apply that exponent to both the top and to the bottom. So let's come up with a little example of the y here. So say if I have x over y, I'm just going to say cubed. So our rule here would tell us that it would just be x cubed over y cubed, right? So let's go try to figure out why that's happening. X over y cubed, if I wanted to, I could think of that as x over y times x over y 3 times, right? That would be fine. And then if I wanted to, I could just rewrite that as one giant fraction, right? So I'm just going to fill that in. So now I have x times x times x on the top, y times y times y on the bottom. And x times x times x is x cubed over y cubed. So that's where that rule's coming from. Now, I think I just have 2 of them for you to try. I don't know if I can squeeze them both on the screen. Yep. There we go. Go and hit pause and try those guys. Okay, so the rule for this one, we're going to apply that exponent to what's going to the top and to the bottom, right? So the top of this first one's not too bad. It's just 5 cubed over a to the 4th cubed. So you can just knock that out in one shot if you want and just tell me a to the 12th. I just don't want to lose anybody, so I'm just going to do one rule at a time. So I'm going to put a to the 4th, but then show that I'm applying that cube so that they don't like miss that second rule that we're doing in there. Okay, that power rule. And then we get 5 cubed is just 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. And then now apply that rule. So we got the a to the 4th. Then cubed, we just multiply to get a to the 12th. And finally, the last one. I have 3a to the 4th over b cubed, all of that squared. So there are a couple different ways to do it. So in the end, as long as you got the same answer, it's probably fine. I'll show you how I did it. Is I just broke apart the top and the bottom. So I wrote 3a to the 4th squared over that b cubed squared. That was all I did for my first step. And then 3 squared is going to give me 9. A to the 4th squared, so we multiply, we get a to the 8th over b cubed squared, we multiply 3 times 2, we get 6. And that wraps up part 2 of 6.6. For part 3, normally what I do for part 3 is a game in class, but we can't do the game really online. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to post the game, and it's just kind of as a worksheet. I have it in Canvas all ready to go. I kind of described what the game looks like. So if you want to play the game on your own, you can, or you can use it as a worksheet. It's 13 questions. You'll probably only want to do the first 10 because that's what was covered in sections 1 and 2. Normally in the class, I do the last 3 kind of as a transition into 6.7. So it's something new. So since you haven't seen it, and I can't really ease you into that, I would recommend going back and looking at those after you do 6.7. Okay, but you can give them a try if you want. Other than that, I will see you next time. I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.